Denise Leon and I met at our very first Fitness Tech conference. She's been an advisor and a mentor, and I'm very happy to have her moderating this next panel.
All right, we've got the post-lunch slump, and I'm going to be like working again, so you've got to work with me, keep the energy up here, okay? I'm Denise, as Juliet said, and I'm really excited to be here. I work with companies to develop and leverage their brand strategies, and I think that's a real important development area for digital health and fitness brands and products. So that's why I'm excited to be here, and I'm really excited to share with you these guests that we have on our panel. You know, one of the great things about CES is how all the new innovations and breakthroughs that are out there. But I think that there's also a danger in that we can kind of, we can kind of get, I think, distracted by the technology. And back in 1999, so 13, 14 years ago, John Nesbitt actually wrote a book called High Tech, High Touch. And he talked about how we were entering an age where people were getting into this technologically intoxicated zone. And I think that when you go down on the show floor, you kind of experience what he's talking about. There's this intoxication with the technology that happens. And he encouraged us way back 13 years ago, and I think it's still relevant today, that because of this intoxication, that we need to be very mindful about people's relationships with the technology, and that we need to consciously explore how people interact with the technology. So that's what the purpose of this panel is today. So I'm going to give each of our panelists an opportunity to introduce themselves, and I realize that I need the clicker, so hang on. All right. What I've asked the panelists to do is share with us about the human interaction that people are having with their products. What are people trying to do with your product, and how is it helping improve their lives? So we're going to start off with Basis. And Jeff, why don't you go ahead and get us started?
Sure. Do you want me to control that, or are you going to control that for us?
Is it okay if I control it for you?
Of course it is.
Okay,
Absolutely.
all right.
So hi, I'm Jeff from Basis. And I agree there's a lot of intoxicating stuff happening on the floor, and there's been a lot of stuff announced at this show about this category of sort of consumer health and how do we help people find healthier behaviors in life. So our approach on that is really twofold. One, we're trying to start with much more powerful technology. We're trying to get at a better way of tracking. And you can go forward, I think, a little bit. Perfect. So first, understanding more. Certainly measuring activity, but also trying to understand how that activity actually affects your physiology. How does that activity really affect you and your body at a deeper level? So we manage to measure things like steps and calories, but we also look at things like perspiration, skin temperature, and perhaps most importantly, measuring heart rate passively in the background all throughout your day. So that gives us a much richer understanding of what's really going on, but that's not really going to drive behavior change. And I think that's one of the big things that we are learning as a category, and certainly that Basis has observed. Lots of rich data is a good foundation, but it doesn't drive behavior change once you get past that initial sort of novelty period. So the next thing I think that's important and part of our approach is removing all the friction from the system. And I think we've seen systems that require manual logging where the user theoretically can have a pretty rich data set, but if it requires a lot of manual logging or tracking or putting the device into special modes, our observation is that breaks. So part of what we're trying to do is really just make this all automatic and passive in the background. You simply wear the device and everything else should sort of happen automatically. And then the third thing that we're trying to do is leveraging everything that I've just said. How do we help people build healthier behaviors? And you know, at last year's CES, we previewed what we were thinking about in terms of the cloud application, how you render all this data, how you make all this data sort of digestible for a mainstream consumer, how you make it easy to read and interesting. And I think what we've observed is there is that novelty period where just tracking something is interesting for a bit of time, but the consumer is still left with this question of now what? Or in some cases, perhaps so what? So for us, answering that question is really the big mission. And for us, we've done that with something that we call healthy habits. Healthy habits is a very simple concept. It's what are the specific concrete actions that you can take even if you live a busy lifestyle, which we all do, that adds up to a big difference over time. It may be simple things like taking steps per day. It may be, if you're working on sleep, something like going to bed at the same time every night. But it's a whole series of things that you opt into. You pick the ones that work best for you, and then we reward you for sticking with them. And that is what we're finding is actually driving long-term behavior change and long-term engagement.
Great. So we're going to actually get into that a little more, and I just wanted to show your slide with the close-up of the.
Yeah. So just briefly, you can just click through this to get to the end. This it just sort of captures for you guys what we're doing in a more literal way, as I've just described, a device with a lot more sensors, getting at more kinds of data, real physiological data, not just activity, doing all of that automatically, and then driving people to this experience that we call healthy habits, trying to create really lasting change, but positioned in a way that really honestly fits into real life, not the life that we read about in fitness magazines, but the one where there's holidays and our kids have us busy and we're traveling executives and we get sick on occasion. So how do you find health even in the context of that being your real life?
Great, thank you. All right, next we have Recon Instruments, and I want to introduce Shane Luke.
Hi, I'm Shane from Recon Instruments. We're a Vancouver-based company. Our core platform is sort of a combination of wearable computing and a heads-up display. And so we're a world leader in heads-up display technology. We have a wearable computing platform that has a lot of the standard sensors you might expect. We have GPS, we have a 3-axis accelerometer, we have a gyroscope on board. With all those sensors, you can get a lot of data. And kind of our killer advantage is that we can deliver that data direct to eye to the consumer. So, as Jeff was saying, it's really important to make sure that you're not interfering with what people would be doing. If you're trying to modify behavior, you're trying to modify it in a positive way, not having them have to go enter things when they're in the middle of an activity or whatever it might be. When you have the direct-to-eye communication, you have a way of letting them be active while they're seeing what's actually going on. So when I think of our products, I think that there's two main things that are really the value proposition for our users. One is telling them about what's going on, and the other one is staying connected to what's going on with themselves while they're active, as well as staying connected to the outside world. So we can network into your smartphone and pull in things like text messages. So like you said, in the real world, we're not all hardcore athletes that are spending all our time doing that, and we do need to stay connected. So our platform enables you to do it. That's a picture of, that's Julie from Consumer Services at Recon, actually wearing one of our products. We started this by going into a specific market, so we could be really tight and accurate around what was valuable to a specific market segment. So we have snow goggles for skiers and snowboarders, and we're partnered with the major eyewear brands around to integrate that technology into things that you're familiar with, like an Oakley goggle or a Zeal goggle. But we're not a snow goggle company, and so that platform is going to be going into more verticals, if you will, as we go forward, and those same principles, I think, will apply. You can click the next one. So this is just a kind of a quick view of what some of the screens look like inside a heads-up display for a skier or a snowboarder. You not only can see what's going on with your own metrics and analytics, you can actually track your friends who also have either our smartphone app or have a heads-up display and see where they are on the mountain. So I don't know how many people are skiers or snowboarders here, but one of the things that happens very often when you're on the hill is you lose your friends or family or children, which is kind of a killer app for us. So you won't do that if you have heads-up displays.
Cool. All right. Next we have Scosh, and I want to introduce Rick Wenner. I think you just start talking and it magically works. Isn't technology amazing?
So I'm Rick Wenner. I'm the category manager for health and fitness products at Scosh. Scosh has been around for about 30 years in car audio and iPhone, iPod accessories. We had Soundcase years ago. It was that visor where you kept your CDs. So that was a Scosh product years ago. So more recently, you can go ahead and click. Scosh decided, we want to go out and help people live healthier lives. And we have a strong background through car audio and through different apps of being able to have hardware work with software, whether it be apps or stereos, et cetera. So looking at the landscape right now, there's a great opportunity to go into this space, and I think we'll talk about this a little bit more later, so I'm not going to go too far into this, but it's whether helping people exercise better or live a more active life in general, 23 hours a day. So we kind of had that decision to make as to what direction we wanted to go. And once we made that decision, we came out with a heart rate monitor, which is worn on the forearm. And kind of the key differentiator for us is as we always do, we try to keep things entertaining and keep you motivated and entertained so that exercise isn't boring. So we included music controls on here. So right on the armband itself, we have pause, play, track forward, track back, volume up, volume down. So we allow you to always be tied to your phone, as if you go ahead and click the next slide, we have that app that tracks your heart rate, speed, distance. So we enable the phone's GPS to track your workout. And at the same time, obviously keep you connected to the world. You can background the app and send some emails. We know that the goal is to get people to exercise. The problem is people don't want to be, as you mentioned, away from their life, their text messages, their emails. So we tied it all in and allowed you to control your music from here as well. So we try to kind of create that whole experience to get people to exercise and at the same time, keep them connected to their world and tie in their entertainment as well. So if you take a look at the Scotia booth, we have other products, cases. We have something called a fit rail for your iPad. So when you're on the treadmill, it's an iPad holder that holds the iPad tight so you don't have to worry about it falling out. So if you want to watch movies while you're exercising, we give you that ability by having accessories to hold everything safely so it won't fall. So we're not just necessarily about car audio anymore. We're trying to make a difference and keep you connected and keep you entertained. And if you go ahead and click the next slide, it's that. And actually go back, yeah. No, that's right there. I made some adjustments, sorry. But the big thing is monitoring, motivating, tracking progress, and entertain for Scotia. We're not heavy on data, and that's something we're probably going to talk about later as far as where we went with our app and why we made some decisions that we made. Our big thing is keeping it entertaining and not be too heavy on data.
Great, thank you. All right, next, for those of you who were in the previous session, you already got to hear a little bit from James Park, but we wanted to have him on this panel as well. So James, you might have to repeat yourself a bit, but tell us about Fitbit and your exciting new launch.
Yeah, so I'm James Park. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Fitbit. We make wireless health tracking devices that motivate people to live healthier lives. And really from the start, we started the company in 2007, early 2007, so it's been almost 6 years at this point. But really the founding goal of the company was to develop tools that really blended into people's lifestyles, whether they were busy mom, office worker, et cetera, and allowed them to use these tools and services to reach their fitness goals. So a lot of the work that we do on our hardware is to achieve products that really disappear into people's lifestyles. So we focus on size, battery length, weight, et cetera. A lot of our focus is also on wireless syncing as well. When we launched the company, a lot of the competitive products at the time were not wireless, and even if they were wireless, didn't ambiently sync in the background. And that was one of the breakthroughs that we introduced into the marketplace. So with all of our devices, you literally don't have to worry about how the data gets up to a website, and I think that goes back to what Jeff was talking about, removing friction in the process. We worked a lot with ANT radio protocol in the beginning, with the launch of introduction of Bluetooth 4.0, especially in the iPhone 4S. That enabled us to, rather than being tied to syncing, wireless syncing through your computer, being able to sync through your smartphone. And with the launch of our new wristband product, Fitbit Flex, we've introduced NFC into the band as well. So you don't even have to unlock your phone, rifle through your apps to try to launch your app. All you do is actually just touch your Android NFC phone to the band, and the app automatically launches. So for us, it's all about making technology, health technology, disappear into your lifestyle, and providing the rich tools and services on top of the data that's collected to motivate people.
Cool. All right. And last but not least, I have Isaiah Kazavinsky.
That's all right. I can.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
I can riff here. I'm all good.
Okay. Is that okay?
So yeah, my name is Isaiah Kazavinsky. I direct the sports segment at MC10. MC10 is a platform technology. It's a conformal electronics, stretchable, bendable circuit boards that are thinned. Where we really innovate is on form. Not taking electronics out of the box and being able to actually put it on your body, and the idea of you not conforming to the electronics, but the electronics conforming to you. And there's a ton of applications in the wearable device side, especially in sports, and then as it trickles down to digital health as well. in the end, what we all talk about is the idea of compliance, being able to put something on and keep it on. And a lot of time that is a problem. And imagine being able to put something on and just forgetting about it. And that's really where we innovate and where our vision is. And we're releasing a product at CES this year. It's called the Reebok MC10 Check Light. And it's something I'm going to go into a little more later on, but essentially innovates on form in a way to measure impact. We also being able to do different ways, being able to put tattooed like stickers on your body, and be able to measure things like hydration, temperature, UV, the list goes on and on, muscle activity. So there's a ton of stuff I'm going to talk about, but we've got a lot going on, and in the end, no one wants to wear something clunky. They want to put something on, have a seamless sensing experience. So.
Great. All right. Well, I do want to start with the person, not the technology, and really start at the very beginning with how people become aware of their health and fitness needs. How do people understand what their goals should be, what information they need? How do we understand what needs our products can fulfill? And so, James, you've probably been in this longer than anyone else in terms of really thinking about this. So I'll start with you and ask you to respond to that.
A lot of our growth has come from people buying the device, learning about it initially. A lot of our work was educating our channels of distribution about the value of health tracking devices. So when we launched the company, we sold the product directly online, then we're on Amazon. It took a lot of convincing to get retailers like Best Buy, REI on board, just because it was a completely new category and they didn't understand the value of these type of products. They understood the value of devices like Garmin GPS watches, polar heart rate monitors, but health tracking devices for just the average everyday person was really something new. So that was really our first step in beginning to educate a lot of people about the value of these products. So the retail channel is one way we educate people. The other big way for us is really through friends and family. So one family member will buy a Fitbit and then try to enlist or in a very friendly way coerce other family members to join in competitions or leaderboards around their health. So it becomes something that's, achieving one's health goals becomes something that's really friendly and family focused and very cooperative. So I think those are the two key ways that we've seen the market become educated about the value of health and fitness products.
Anyone else want to share about that in terms of how are people discovering what their needs are, or how are you educating or helping them discover those needs?
Well, I can say a little bit about that. I think, I will give the media a little bit of credit. I think over the last year, 18 months, we've started to see a lot more insightful coverage about the crisis that we're facing. I think we are seeing, even just in my own social circles, a lot more general awareness about the issue and sort of people thinking about where they fit in the spectrum. I think once you get past that, what we're discovering is, people's first experience with any of these kinds of products, especially when we're talking about really mainstream people as opposed to people who already have, athletics or fitness as a primary hobby in their life. So let's set those people aside for the moment. For the rest of us, I think your first experience with these kinds of products, tracking products, whatever they may be tracking, is a sort of a mirror that's held up to you where you suddenly have this realization of where you really are on the spectrum versus where you maybe imagine you are on the spectrum. And I think that suddenly creates a bunch of questions about what are my health needs? I'm not nearly as active as I thought I was, or turns out I don't sleep as well as maybe I thought I did. So I think that creates sensitivity. I think from that, I think we agree that this is a big question. I think consumers, by and large, have only a vague sense of what they should be doing. I think what we are discovering is people need to be prompted, prescribed, exposed to here's the thing, or the two things, or the three things that you can do that will make a difference over time. That's what's led us in particular to this healthy habits idea, but whether it's embodied in that approach or not, I think people really do need to be sort of prompted with here's the small things that you can do that will fit in your life without upending your life entirely, but will still make a difference.
Right.
Yeah, I want to add to that, being able to talk about the Reebok and MC10 check light. The idea, going through the testing for it, and Chris Nowinski spoke at the luncheon keynote, but the idea of some of the parents not knowing how many times the minimum amount of impacts that their kids were actually taking in a practice and a game over a season was actually going into the hundreds, early kind of thousands of impacts was an eye opener. So being able to change how you approach practice, how you approach game, we really saw that firsthand throughout the testing process. And this is just one example, but I could name a couple more, but it was a very powerful example for us.
Right, okay, and Isaiah, you're going to have to bear with me because Chris did not do what I wanted him to do, which is to put the thing on. And since you won't mess up your hair doing it, I thought that it would be good to ask you to do it. All right. All right, yeah, all right. And so for those of you who missed the luncheon keynote, the beanie has this device in the back, and Isaiah, you could probably demo that a little bit more, but.
Yeah, so so what this does is this is multi-sport, so wear under a helmet, be able to wear on different types of activities, and what it does is it's a complex algorithm that is unique and over many I guess almost 2 years of testing in the lab, and being able to essentially boil that down into a light system that is moderate impact and severe impact. And what it does is, think about it as an extra set of eyes on each player on the field, whether it be youth, high school, college, and when a light triggers for this thresholded impact, it puts them on a pathway to assessment. And it's not a diagnostic tool. There is no magic number for anything in this space. But what it does is it doesn't let those impacts that may have not been seen be seen, and then put you on that pathway to get checked. And what it does, think about it as, I guess, an extra data point, and kind of that's what we're all up here talking about, is how can we gather this wealth of data? And this is one more way to do that on that end.
Cool. Okay. So you're a developer or manufacturer. You understand that there's a need out there in the marketplace. The consumer has a need for certain information or wants to accomplish a certain goal. And so I want you to talk about your development process and how you actually go through the process of developing a product that then meets that need. And I would love to hear your perspective, because you talked about kind of coming from the automotive industry or that sector and doing something totally different. This must have been an educational process internally in your organization as well. So if you could kind of talk about your development process.
Yeah, so it was actually really interesting for me as well, because I came from, I was a personal trainer, worked in the gym, I was a fitness manager. My degree is exercise science and then business later on. And I worked at 24 Hour Fitness. I was the category manager for Bodybug. So I was familiar with, obviously, 24/7 monitoring and with the body media device. And Scosh at the same time, I was kind of ready to move on for several reasons, and Scosh was looking to get into that category, and it was just the perfect marriage. And it's been extremely interesting with me coming from my background and them coming from the automotive background. I couldn't even know where to begin. I mean, just from a marketing perspective and how to get in front of buyers and how to speak to buyers about what we're offering, because this is a very different product that we're talking about getting involved in. So the first step was, do we want to talk about the 24/7 monitor to get people more active and take 10,000, 20,000 steps and goals for that throughout the day to become more active, or do we want to talk about exercising? For so long I was an educator. I educated personal trainers, taught personal training certifications, and a major part of that was, okay, you trainers, you all know your exercises. You all know how to tell people what to do in the gym. We're going to spend a day or two in this certification talking about the other 23 hours of the day that you're not with them, because you need to educate them on that. And that's extremely important. And that was where at the time, the Bodybug came in as part of that educational process. Now, from my perspective, I'm looking at this and saying, okay, there's a lot of these products out there. There's a lot of great products that do 24/7, 18 hours a day monitoring. Do we want to jump in those waters and compete with them and then have to find the best features and where do we go there? Or can we kind of work with our expertise and Step one, what do we have that's one of our best-selling products for active individuals? Music controller for during workouts. So we have a device that people are already purchasing to use during workouts. Well, why don't we just add pulse monitoring to that? And then get more feedback, and then we'll build the app. So it kind of went, that's really how we kind of decided, you know what? We're an active lifestyle company based on our products, people doing things and cases for your phones and all those types of things. Let's help people have better workouts. It's make exercising more enjoyable so that people will desire to work out. Because me, as a personal trainer and working in the gym, why do most people get personal trainers? It's because they won't do it on their own. So they need to hire somebody for 3 hours a week to say, all right, this is portioned out, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to meet with that person. So our goal is to take the first step into finding a way to have a device or a system in place that makes exercise more enjoyable so it's not so bad. You have access to whatever you want to have access to. It's there. It's in front of you. Oh, and at the same time, if you go too slow, our app is going to tell you to go faster.
Right.
To get your heart rate back up.
Cool. All right. And Shane, did you want to talk about your development process and kind of the thought process behind your product?
Yeah, sure. Our development process is pretty complex because we have to start by building our own computer, and that's an inherently pretty complex product. And once we get there, then we have to build our own software on top of that computer, and that's complex in and of itself. And then from there, we also have to build a mechanical solution that will actually fit into a form factor that you can see the display properly, it's comfortable, it doesn't interfere with what you're doing. So we sort of have these three axes of things that we need to figure out. And in so doing, you look around, what components are available, what should we build, what do we need to get somebody else to build, what do we have to write specs for and get somebody else to build for us. And as we go through this process, most of the time at this stage of where this industry is, we come to the conclusion that we have to do it ourselves, or that we have to direct that. And our CTO is actually in the audience here, Hamid, and he's a perfectionist. And I think one of the great things about that characteristic about him is that it means for the consumer, they're not going to get something that has trade-offs built into it, or that's sort of trying to get to the end goal of being unintrusive, connected, and monitoring you while being a little less comfortable than what you were doing before, or while not quite giving you all the information that you really need access to because that sensor didn't fit on the board properly. So we basically just kind of relentlessly iterate through the process on each of those three axes. We try to sort of have our teams be loosely coupled so that they can go do what they do best, whether it's the mechanical team, the software team, or the hardware team. And then we bring it all together as we go to bring a product to market, which is one of the reasons why we started with a very specific product in the ski and snowboard market. And we're up in Vancouver, so we're very near skiing and snowboarding and some of the best in the world. So it made a lot of sense. But I think that approach is really important for these devices as we go forward. Like the form factor. One of the things that our CEO always says is if you're going to wear it, if it's wearable computing, you're going to wear it, people want to wear things that make them look better, not worse. So when we do development, that's a core principle that we have.
Great. All right. And Jeff, I know that your development process, I think, will be the journey has been very interesting. So I'm hoping you can kind of share a little bit about the process, but also some of the maybe mistakes or lessons learned along the way.
Yeah, I can talk about that. I don't know if our development process was a lot longer than others, but we did it in public, so it maybe people could see kind of where we were. I think if we had to do it all over again, I think one of the lessons is we started talking about our vision for this space and the vision for our product very early in development, which on the one hand was terrific for us because it created a lot of anticipation. On the other hand, there's a limit to how long anticipation is a good thing before people are sort of frustrated. So I think if we had to do it all over again, we'd probably get further along before we started talking about our vision for the space and showing what we were doing. That said, I think what that allowed us to do is to do a lot of that iteration, make those mistakes, do a lot of consumer testing before launching the product. We went through a tremendous evolution, as I think this category is going through now, trying to figure out how you move from just tracking great data to making that data useful and actually leading to behavior change. And I think making the decision that we were going to take our time. We had a product that we showed at last CES and a cloud service, a dashboard, a way of rendering all of that data that was done, but by our measure wasn't good enough. Good enough at least in dealing on what we were actually trying to deliver on, which is can this genuinely help people in their everyday lives live a little bit more healthily. So I think making that decision that we're going to take more time is a difficult one, but it allowed us to go through all of that learning not with thousands of users, but through beta testing. And that led us to this notion of healthy habits and something that we think will actually help people stick. So while it was perhaps longer in getting there, it was a better place to get to.
Right. Okay, and that actually brings up something that I wanted to ask others as well. So, okay, so you've identified the need, you've developed your product. How do you know whether you're really helping people change their lives? How do you know whether you're really having an impact? So, James, maybe I'll start with you.
Yeah. So the great thing about connected devices is that you're able to see in pretty good detail how people are doing from day one. So, for instance, with our activity tracking devices, we're able to see that, for someone who starts off very sedentary, and we define sedentary as walking maybe 2,500 steps a day, which is a little over a mile. And that's, probably a typical office worker who wakes up, drives to work, sits at their desk, drives home, sits down on the sofa, watches TV. Maybe they'll get 2,000, 2,500 steps. So if we look at those type of users and we track their behavior over 12 weeks using our activity tracking devices, we actually see that they manage to increase their activity about 43%. So again, the great thing is that we're able to very exactly measure people's results, and we can also see the impact of different features that we roll out on people's ability to reach their goals.
Other folks, how do you know that you're really having impact, that people's behaviors are really changing?
I think one of the interesting things that I ran into is we thought we had a great tool for the female demographic who didn't want to have a chest strap, something they could wear on their arm to get heart rate, and the more sedentary individuals to get them to the gym more, to exercise more. That was my vision. What I've quickly learned is that the early adopters aren't necessarily that crowd, and the automotive folks who follow Scotia and know Scotia aren't necessarily that crowd. So a significantly high percentage of our early adopters of our technology was the male demographic. So that was surprising. So that's one of the, and our marketing was really geared towards the woman, to the female. And just because of those issues that I mentioned, is really 85, 90% male usage in our first 6 or 7 months of being out in the market. So we've had to change the way we advertise. We've had to change the messaging, and we're doing that to reach the demographic that I want to reach, which is people that need to move more. So, and I kind of jumped over it a little bit, but part of that crowd too is I'm finding the athletes. Who was familiar with heart rate training? Athletes. So it's hard to get in front of people who don't really know about heart rate training. The sedentary population, who you guys are doing a great job of reaching. Our goal is to get them to work out 3 times a week using heart rate training and monitoring their intensity. And it's kind of hard to get them to understand even around our office, I even have difficulty with some individuals who need to exercise more, but they don't understand even the products that we sell. Like what does it do? What is it? Heart rate monitor? Why? What is it? I'm like, really? I really thought everyone understood that, but apparently not. Mm-hmm. So we really have reached out to a lot of males and a lot of people who are already using heart rate monitors. This is just taking the place of their old one.
Yeah. So I think one of the things you can do too, as a company that's getting into the space, is really for whatever teams you have that are working on your features, to just make it a principle in their feature design process that the feature would be inherently motivating for people to do more. So things like setting goals or having challenges or having coaching programs that are built into the user flows inside your online services is pretty powerful. If you get people engaged in that, then it's pretty easy to analyze the data and see whether or not you're getting increases like James talked about and how that's affecting their behavior. So that's really important. The other thing is, once you do that, you start to get richer and richer data, and it starts to get more and more specific to people. If you can get them to do things like engage in a challenge where you've sort of set that up in a way that you can try to segment the users into various types of users, ones who maybe are sedentary and need a lot of work, ones who are kind of power users who need to be able to have a very high threshold set for them to be able to push harder. And then the sort of follow-up to that is figuring out what's next for them. So if you have programs that are in place that aren't just things to get them to do more of what you think is best inside your own ecosystem, but actually what's best for the activities that they're doing. So they move outside of your own products and into the world of the athletics that they're engaged in. I think all those are really important ways that you can help people to modify their behavior. And lastly, I think it's really important to talk to your consumers directly, because I know for myself, I've had a lot of hunches about exactly what people were doing that might have been a little different. And very importantly, almost everybody does this, but it's really easy to talk to consumers who either love you or hate you. And so either of those groups don't necessarily give you the best indication of what the majority of your users are doing, because people who hate you and love you, they talk to you. So you hear about them through your social channels and consumer services. So I think all those things help a lot.
Great. All right. Isaiah?
Yeah, one of the powerful aspects when we were finishing up testing and almost through is you saw this, the Reebok MC10 check light as a teaching tool to the players using it, where they wanted to avoid the larger impacts if you were tackling or you're getting tackled. And it was a change of behavior, and that's essentially what everybody up here is talking about, is changing people's behavior. And we saw that in real time. It was very powerful for us, and really making a big difference. And I talk about making sports safer, and an awareness tool to be able to tackle safer, or check safer, or head the ball safer. Whatever sport you're talking about, that's powerful.
Right. And so actually, picking up on that, one of the questions I had is, how do partnerships with more well-known consumer brands like a Reebok or like a Google or whatever, how do those kinds of relationships increase the stickiness of your product that really get people to continue to use them?
Yeah, I think that really goes back into the process of our business model. We want to look for partners that think like us and want to innovate. And specifically here with Reebok, and we're in talks with other people. We also have a strategic relationship with Medtronic as well on our medical device side. But we want to have the same mindset. We want to be aligned on the idea of innovation and really thinking outside the box, and they were, and really were able to toss around a lot of different ideas, and we wanted to come up with not just an okay solution, we wanted to come up with the solution at a consumer price point where people can access it, parents can access it. This can be a real tool, not a pie in the sky. And to have that total alignment with Reebok and MC10 and work together, two teams working together as one team, that's what it's all about. And going back to I played 8 years in the NFL. That's exactly what this process has felt like, and it's been amazing.
Great. What about others in terms of how have partnerships with consumer brands? How does that increase the adoption or stickiness of your product?
One of the biggest ones for us was with MyFitnessPal, online food logging, calorie tracking app, and that was one of the first steps for me to address the challenge of the demographic who was purchasing our product. I'm happy with, as long as somebody's buying it, if it's 90% males, that's fine, but I personally have a mission that I want to help people live healthier lives, and I want to reach those more sedentary people, and a partnership with MyFitnessPal really got us into the eyes of a lot of those users that I want to reach.
For us, I mentioned people want to wear stuff that makes them look better. And so if you're looking at integrating wearable computing or any wearable technology somewhere, somebody's probably already cracked the design for the best of whatever that might be. So for us, right now it's eyewear, but there's other places that it's prevalent. Rather than trying to do something better than somebody who's been doing it for years and already has that, that's a great place to integrate. And then there's just the business advantages if you're relatively small, like distribution and sales and those kind of things that can really help with those brands.
For us, I think this is it's an important question when you're a startup. Are you going to make great technology and then work with partners to bring it to the marketplace, or are you going to do a full product on your own? And the latter decision is harder. In our case, we've gone down that route. We felt like we needed to own what this ultimate experience could be, from the product, the hardware itself, the sensors that we have chosen, and how we built them into something that we think people can and will wear, all the way up through the software. Now, that of course doesn't mean that the technology couldn't be leveraged by partners, and of course we have those conversations on a regular basis, but we really felt to set the bar, we needed to have a fully integrated, fully branded experience to start off with. As we think about partnerships, especially in the short term, we have a little bit of a different take when we're talking about consumer brands. So for us, it's looking at the personalities that are out there, whether they be celebrities or whether they be experts in areas like personal training or sleep quality, et cetera, and thinking of them as partners that help us get to the right people. So as just a simple example of that, Deepak Chopra was on a panel, a Living in Digital Time panel earlier today where he showed the fact that he's wearing a Basis band and talking about why he thinks it's important to track heart rate and what you can get out of a device like this. And of course, Deepak has his own audience that he can convey to them why something like this would be important for them. Now, what he thinks is important may be different than, say, a personal trainer would say, this is a great device for measuring the other 23 hours of your day that you're outside of the gym. But the point is, those are partnerships that are a different take on partnerships, but still valuable, and they are consumer brands in and of themselves, people like Deepak.
All right. I want to give you all in the audience an opportunity to ask questions. So I don't know if Kyle is around with the mic, but we usually have been doing the line forming here. So go ahead and think about it if you have any questions while I ask another question, and then we'll kind of take questions from the audience. And that's actually something, Shane, that you mentioned that I kind of want to pick up on, which is listening to your customers. And so balancing the high-tech, high-touch, how do you integrate what you're hearing from your customers' feedback and what they're trying to do with your products with your engineers and developers who are pursuing the latest technological capabilities? How do you balance? How do you integrate those two? How do you manage those two in a way that ends up increasing the adoption of your product? So.
Yeah. So for us, it's very simply we try to show the engineers exactly the issues that the customer is facing. So, for instance, we spend a lot of time fine-tuning and developing the setup process for a lot of our products, and as part of that, we videotape all of the sessions, and it's really incredible, enlightening to see people struggle through what you think is a very simple process, and it's one thing to explain to the product team and the engineering team that people are having problems. It's very, I would say, humbling to see that visually. So a lot of that is, just finding much more effective ways of communicating the challenges that consumers face to the engineering team.
And really closing that gap, just kind of putting it right in front of them. Yeah.
Exactly, and it's rewarding to see. I mean, because we're able to track a lot of people's behavior online, we're able to see immediate improvements in the behaviors that we're trying to improve. So for instance, the setup process, as we make changes, we've instrumented our site with analytical tools for Mixpanel, Google Analytics, and we can see lifts in the setup completion rate as we roll out changes, or we can see dips in the completion rate as things didn't work out quite as well. So I think having this data and having tools like video, et cetera, really I think highlight this to the engineering team.
Right. Shane, did you want to say something?
Yeah, so you asked how you blend those, and for us, it's with extreme difficulty. You hear a lot of sources of information coming from all kinds of different, not only different sources, but even different consumers, right? So the consumer voice is not one source of information. It's many sources of information, so you need to blend that together. We do spend a lot of time and effort on listening to the consumers through the various connection points we have with them. So whether it's forums that we host, whether it's our social channels, whether it's us actually going out and interacting directly, which we do pretty regularly. And then we try to bring that in and boil it all down. And my product management team, we sit down, we look at all the sources of information, and we eventually place a bet. I don't think there's any perfect science when you're deciding what to do next and what goes into the roadmap. It's really more art than science, and so you're eventually placing a bet, and it's as much gut feel about everything you've seen that guides you as anything else. So you try to be structured around how you intake the information, and then I think artful about how you process it and produce a roadmap out of that.
I was just going to add, the way we're doing this, merging the perspective of the engineers who are obviously looking at fantastic technology and the needs of consumers is this week we brought engineers to the show, and they're going to stand on the floor and talk to real people and hear how they're using technology in their real life and try to explain what we do in a way that resonates with real folks. We've also had them do guest appearances in customer support and deal with actual folks. We have consumers come into the office and we'll do focus groups or discussions or idea reviews. We have a monitor where we can watch, the engineers can watch that discussion happen and hear people really reacting to ideas in real time. So I think you just need to keep keep them close to what the consumer is actually saying. Let them observe it themselves.
Yeah, I think in our situation, we'll have the engineers come up with maybe somebody will approach them at a trade show and say, hey, would you like to integrate this into a product? and they'll come to myself and others and say, hey, we have a great opportunity. Let's add this feature to this, and I just kind of look at them. Have you ever desired to add that feature to this product? When you were exercising, have you ever said, hey, I want to do X, Y, and Z? And then, no. Okay, let's pass on that. So it's a matter of not getting so excited about the cool things you can do and focusing on the things that you should do and that people actively want to do, to use.
That reminds me of the favorite thing that I like to talk about with my clients is the Lycra principle, which is just because you can doesn't mean you should, right?
Right.
So,
right.
for sure. Yeah, you have a question?
Yes. Hi, my name is Guy. I want to ask you, like, how would you balance between hiring people who have passion for fitness and whatnot versus someone who brings in a certain technical skill or knowledge that could benefit the product?
I think that's probably, you can't really have both. So you have to, so if I understood the question, it's if you're bringing someone in to work with the company, are they, focused on fitness or are they focused on other areas of the business? Is that, I think I misunderstood the question.
In a sense, someone who's really passionate about working out, someone who's really passionate about taking themselves to the next step in terms of like their physical state, their state of mind, whatever. And they're an engineer or they're a person who's a marketing manager and whatnot, versus hiring someone who's not considered to be athletic or motivated about working out every day, for example, but is an amazing database guy or an amazing, I know we've been talking about APIs over here.
Yeah.
He's the biggest architect of the best APIs, but doesn't care about.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that I've done in the past, I've done it a couple times at Scotia, and I've done it in the past, is get them addicted to the product that you're offering. In other words, as soon as they step in the door, you say, here's the Scotia Rhythm. This is the product that we're offering. You need to use it, and you need to make this a part of your life. And for me, it's about getting people addicted to exercise and making them realize how important it is, and then they start making decisions differently once they understand how the product is really used.
So your approach is hire them and then try to change them.
In some cases, yes.
Okay.
In some cases, absolutely. Absolutely.
If he was a former trainer, so that
I'm
makes
good at
sense, right?
Makes sense. That's a good approach.
But I think it's also I think it's more of putting a team together. I don't think you have to choose one or the others, depending on how you want to fill needs, and being able to do that. I know how we've done it at MC10. Have this full complement, this full array of I don't want to say assassins, but people ready to do whatever it takes to get over the goal line, and that comes from the top down. And that's going to reverberate it through the company, and hopefully there's a screening process where you can get those type of people in the company.
For us, I don't think that there's any hard requirement that anybody has to be really into a specific activity or anything like that. It's always nice. We try to hire the best person for the job, and I think the passion, whether it's for exercise or whatever it might be, on my team needs to be for the product, or on our team needs to be for the product. So I think that most of the products we've talked about here, they don't really require a person who's necessarily super passionate about any one activity for the product to be valuable to them. And hopefully we've designed the features in a way that they can capture, they have something for everybody, or maybe not everybody, but most people. So when we're looking at hiring, it's great to have people that are great beta testers for us and they're going to go up to the mountain or get into the other activities that we are going into and haven't launched products in yet. But the product should be great for them even if they aren't super passionate about that, but they are a great database guy or a super talented electronics engineer. Yeah.
I was just going to add, I think the important thing for us, we do hire best talent for the job, not passion for athletics necessarily. At Basis, we have people who are triathletes, and we have people who are, shall we say, closer to the middle of the bell curve like me. I think what's important to us, though, besides the skill for the specific job that we're hiring for, is an honest passion for helping people live more healthy lives, whatever your starting point may be, whether you're an athlete or somebody who is re-beginning your engagement with your health. Believing in that mission and showing up every day with that in mind is what's more important to us.
Yeah, I mean, for us, what we found is that the people who apply for a job at Fitbit, it's a self-selecting pool of people, so they're while they might not all be super athletes, they're generally passionate, as Jeff said, about the goal of making people healthier. I mean, we have one DevOps engineer who, he wears a continuous glucose monitor, and he's just passionate about using data to help people. So I think in this whole general area, there's a lot of different ways that you can be interested and motivated in the mission.
Do we have another question?
Yep, got one right here. Hi, I'm Dips. I guess this is a question that is directed at James for Fitbit, but it's relevant for all of you guys. We're seeing a lot of crossover here. We've talked about electronics products within sport, fitness, and within the health sector. However, the channels of distribution that we've got for the majority of these products are focused primarily around electronics distribution. What work are you guys doing, I guess, with Recon Instruments, and you guys are working with brands to get distribution within the sporting goods sector? What kind of work are you guys doing to capitalize on sporting goods and, I guess, the pharmaceutical trade, which will be relevant for Fitbit?
Yeah, so all of our success in the channel has been traditional consumer electronics. So we're in about 10,000 stores in the US right now. That's spread across Best Buy, Brookstone, REI, Target, et cetera. So the odd thing is we actually have not, we're not in sporting goods stores, and we're also not in pharmacy and drug, which, honestly, if you'd asked me in 2007, which would be the first channels to pick up on this product, it would have been those. In some ways, I can explain the pharmacy, the price points for products that do well in that channel. It's, not quite, it doesn't quite fit with our current product lineup. And for sporting goods, honestly, that's one of the challenges that we're facing. I don't know if I can give you an answer right now. It doesn't quite make sense to me.
Sure, I guess I can take that one as well. So for us, I mentioned one mechanism we use, which is we have partners who have existing channels. In some cases, that's specialty channels, which can be very difficult to access if you don't have somebody who already has the reach in there. And the market cycles that are tied there are very different than in consumer electronics, or especially in software, where you can release very frequently. A lot of retailers are tied to specific buying cycles, and so that is a challenge for people in our space, because to getting to all the consumers that you want to get to, you need multiple channels to do it. So in my view, in our view, our strategy has a blend of these things, and we sort of try to pick the right moment when it actually fits, right? So between direct distribution, online distribution through channels like Amazon, and then getting into the right retail channels at the right time. With that blend, hopefully you can get a pretty wide reach. But there's a lot of dynamics that go into it, and a lot of the products that we have do take a little bit of explaining, even if we've made them simple and we've really strived to make the user experience simple. Just handing it to somebody may not be enough. They may need to understand the value proposition more to be able to get around the price point or whatever it might be. And to have that present in some of those retail channels can be difficult at first, so it takes some training. So in addition to the difficulty of just getting it sold in, you also have the difficulty of educating both the sales staff and the consumer base as you move forward.
The observation that I have is that when you're operating in completely new categories, 5 years ago, no one knew what a personal monitoring device, those things didn't exist. There is no established channel where people are already buying that thing, and then you just need to get into that channel, and then people will buy your thing. You have to kind of create the channel, create the way that people get in. That's why I was really interested in the personal trainers, why I'm interested in other gatekeepers like physicians or pharmacists or even online services that help people. Where do people go to get advice and information about their health and wellness? Those are the channels through which I think we need to be selling our products.
Yeah, and that's from my experience at 24 Hour Fitness, we had a lot of success with the
fitness
product.
Clubs, yeah. Mm-hmm.
With the challenge is it's extremely labor intensive. We had an entire, every personal trainer that was hired had to go through a 4-day certification. About a day and a half of that was about the other 23 hours of the day and this great tool called the Body Bug and all this information, and it was a big educational process which was extremely labor intensive. And one of the things when I came to Scotia, it was assumed that we were going to just go out and just start selling through health clubs. And I said, slow down a little bit, because you need to put a sales force together specifically for the health club who could speak the language of the personal trainer. I can do it personally, but I can't fly around the country every week and that's not all. I can't just do that. We need to hire people who can speak the language, understand the science, understand exercise prescription, and then that's when they can start moving the product. But the gym as a destination, people don't go there to purchase electronics. Right. So there's a barrier there.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, we'll take one more question from the audience.
So about a month ago, the Wall Street Journal had an article about ultra-distance runners and those types of people that actually do unhealthy, they exercise too much. And so my question is, do any of your products kind of look at the other end of the spectrum, not trying to get people to work out more, but to also track age information and make sure they're not doing things that are bad?
I'll be real quick.
Okay.
Ours uses the phone's GPS as well as the Bluetooth, and Bluetooth Classic. So it gives you about a 3-hour limit on your phone. So we cut down on the ultra marathoners are out. So.
No, we've also, we've thought long and hard about that problem, and what we really, boil it down to is the idea of understanding a performance envelope. So, optimizing performance while minimizing the risk of injury, and a lot of times the risk of injury is chronic. So, chronic misuse, overuse, fatigue, and these are the things, these are the issues that we try to develop our products around. Being able to maintain that performance envelope, and a lot of what is talked about is the idea of having a meaningful metric. What means the most to the consumer on the back end, and that's how we try to think about it, and that's how we try to innovate on that side.
Wouldn't it be nice if we were having panel discussions about how we control against people overtraining? Wouldn't it be nice if that was our big problem? I think, to answer the question more seriously, this is one of the benefits that we hope to get out of being able to get at real physiology, being able to look at heart rate, being able to see resting heart rate in the evening, being able to see what happens to resting heart rate when you've trained very hard, and then what about the next night, and what about the next night. So don't pretend at all that we fully optimized for that crowd yet. We've still got a lot of work ahead of us in terms of how we get more value out of getting at heart rate information, but this is an advantage of being able to get at real physiology.
Cool. All right, well, I want to close by bringing it back to the people and give you an opportunity, if any of you have an anecdote, either a piece of feedback you've heard from one of your customers, or a story that maybe that you've heard about the way your product has indeed changed someone's life. I'd love for you to share that and kind of inspire all of us, because that is why we're here.
Okay, sure, I'll start. So I was thinking about this. We have quite a few, and we've heard from consumers doing different things with our platform. We also release an SDK that allows you to build apps on it. And so there's one that stands out to me that I probably don't have every detail of, but I know roughly what happened. So there was a guy who is a ski patroller up in the Whistler Blackcomb Ski Resort north of Vancouver. And this particular ski patroller happened to also be a software engineer. And so he wrote an app, actually, to improve his ability to patrol the mountain, and specifically to rescue patients. So people who have injured themselves higher on the mountain, and he has to bring them down. So when a ski patroller does this, they put somebody in a sled, and they basically tow them down the mountain behind them. And when they do this, they are trying to monitor their vitals. So the methodology is they go, they stop, they go around, and they check on the patient, and they see how they're doing. They measure things like heart rate, respiration, so on and so forth, and then they go again. So this takes more time. So if somebody's injured critically, you still have to do it, because if they die on the mountain when you could have done something to prevent it, that would be bad. But you're in a fight against time as well. You want to get them down to real medical help as soon as possible. So he actually wrote an app to bring in data from sensors on the patient so that he could just see it in the heads-up display. And he used an app that we already have. We have an app that networks into a heart rate monitor from Polar. And so he could get the heart rate of the patient, and he could see that. So it reduced the time that it would take for him to actually bring the patient down the mountain. And so he contacted us at some point and talked to our people. And we wanted to actually organize a day, and I think we're still planning to organize a day to go up there and work with the other ski patrollers to refine that concept and actually bring that to be sort of a specialty product that shows what the power of direct eye can do.
Cool.
Yeah, probably the thing that stood out for me, and it spoke to me, because it's starting to get into the gyms and the Group X instructors. We had a spin instructor contact us, or group cycling instructor. I don't want to step on any brands there, but she had been teaching Group X classes and spin classes for a long time, and she was a little bit overweight, and she typically would walk around and help the people in the class with their posture, make sure they're doing it right. Are you feeling okay? Go get them a glass of water, get them a towel. And she decided, you know what, I think I want to start doing the class while I'm teaching, I want to start actually riding the bike also. She got a rhythm, and she has lost 30 pounds because now she's actually on there and doing the exercise, and she's actually watching her heart rate. She chose a heart rate zone to stay within, and she's sticking to that heart rate zone. And to go further now, she has more people coming to her class because her classes are more fun because she's up there and she's more animated and she's more exciting and she's more involved in the class. So that's the way I look at that, and I think, wow, not only did we touch that one person's life by changing her health, but now she's got more people in her class that are also, they're being affected, they're getting better workouts as well because of it.
Yeah, the use, I want to give one example, but the use of the check light say a team was outfitted, and this happened several times. This happened, at youth level, high school level, but a team outfitted, and the idea of a player having a significant impact and not having to deal with that himself, and a light triggers where there's a kind of a community feel of getting this player to the sidelines to be assessed from the coaches to the players on the field, directing them on that way, is the idea of that's the real sense of community that kind of came. There's something that we wouldn't have necessarily seen, we didn't think through before we started it, but it was something very powerful that came out of it.
Yeah, for us, we've had a lot of cool stories. One of them around sleep tracking. So we had several people actually who noticed that throughout the night they were waking up 50, 60 times a night. Obviously very odd. Normally, you should be just waking up several times at most. So they went to the doctor, they printed out their sleep chart, and the doctor saw it, ended up sending them to a sleep lab, which more or less confirmed the results. And the user got prescribed a CPAP machine, and pretty much immediately afterwards, they could see their times awakened on their Fitbit charts drop pretty dramatically. So that was pretty rewarding to see.
I'll share two really quick things. The moment when I thought we were really, really onto something, my wife and I were sitting next to each other on the couch. It was about 1:45, and our metrics, our daily metrics, reset at midnight every day. She gets up off the couch at 1:45 and starts pacing while she's explaining to me that she's only, 500 or 600 steps away from completing her habit for the day. And I thought, okay, this has some promise. And then for real users, we just launched a little while ago, so we're getting very, very early data now. But we saw on, I think it was Facebook, a person who posted a story. He and his wife both got Basis bands. They're doing it together, which I think is already a great move. I love it when I see people sort of supporting each other, trying to get healthier. And the basic commentary was they've each picked up these habits, and he was saying they can't not do them. That the compulsion to do them, the sort of fear of having a day go by where they don't accomplish it, was really motivating to them. And that tells me that this is a system that can genuinely make a difference.
Very cool. All right. Well, Isaiah, James, Jeff, Shane, Rick, thank you so much. Please join me in thanking our panelists.